Welcome back to our video series on how to use AI to generate content for your tour operator business. Today we will look at the topic of blogging. To help illustrate this, we will use our example company called Story Safari that Guido introduced in the first video. Let's quickly take stock of where we are in this process. Firstly, we use Story Safari's existing website, which has some information and details about the business, and we combine that with marketing information available on CBI's website. From there, we use ChatGPT to generate unique selling propositions, a marketing persona, and even a brand voice for this business. We then combine that information in a simple text document that we will use in our content creation going forward. In video 3, Guido used that context to show us how we can create a highly effective itinerary page for Story Safari's community-based tourism product. The next step of the process is for Story Safari to start creating some promotion and generate some awareness around this new product that they are selling. Blogging can potentially be a great tactic for this. When using AI to generate content for your business, specifically something like blog content, it's really important to understand that it will write and generate content even if you do not give it clear instructions. While this sounds powerful, it can also be quite dangerous. So let's see as an example what happens when in ChatGPT I simply create a prompt saying, please write a blog about community-based tourism. Now quite instantly, the AI is creating this article, and we can see that it clearly has an understanding about the format of the blog article. It's creating a heading and then some subheadings with questions. And while this is fairly impressive, it also has a mix of information. So we're talking here about different destinations ranging from Africa all the way through to Southeast Asia. And then it's coming up with its own suggestions for what the article should have. So it's talking about how to support community-based tourism. You can imagine the consequences of simply publishing something like this to your website without moderating it, without having human intervention to proofread it and make sure that this information is in fact relevant and true. Let's go through a step-by-step process to see how we can use AI not only to draft an article, but firstly to do the necessary research and planning before we start. Blogging is an interesting topic because it's a fairly old marketing tactic, and we can ask whether it's still valid and relevant in a world of AI and social media and other content creation. I found an article on CBI's marketing information website called How to Start a Travel Blog, and it seems to have quite a bit of valuable information about what to do and what not to do. Let's use this information to quickly validate whether it will be worth Story Safari's time and effort to create blog content in the first place. I created a very simple prompt which simply says, I want to start a blog for my travel company. Is it worth it? Use this article as a reference, and then I pasted the link to the CBI market information study. Based on the CBI resource, we can see that ChatGPT's assessment clearly is that it will be worth Story Safari's time to generate blog content. One of the main benefits they list would be increased visibility in SEO, meaning that if Story Safari creates blog content, it could increase the chance of being found in search engines. Further down, you'll see that ChatGPT also lists potential challenges. And this is really important. We don't only want to understand the benefits of blogging, we want to be prepared for the challenges that we might face. And the one that stands out here for me is time and effort. For a small tour operator business, especially if you do your marketing in-house, it could be time intensive to generate content. So I want to quickly check this and ask ChatGPT whether it will be worth it to blog once a month. And here we can clearly see that it will still hold benefits, but there are things that we need to consider. Things like being consistent in how often we post, and then very importantly, having quality over quantity. I would like to highlight this advice specifically because with AI, it can seem quite easy to generate large volumes of content quickly. But without that being properly researched and properly planned and making sure it aligns with what our audience would be interested in, it can actually have a negative effect on our marketing and even on our SEO. We can also see a recommendation that high quality posts are more likely to be shared. And for that to happen, we will need to really understand what our market persona wants. So how can a small tour operator business like Story Safari achieve this? Quite simply, we need to start with our market persona. We need to think about who we are writing for and the sort of questions and concerns they might have when they're planning travel or looking for a tour operator. To help illustrate this, we will use a bit of marketing theory that we will feed into ChatGPT when creating our prompt. We're looking here at a representation of the AIDA model. Essentially, this shows that customers go through a series of stages through which they make decisions and have questions before they purchase a product, and tourism is no different. Let's say our market persona, Anna, that we created in video 2, is interested in traveling to Africa in the next 12 months. One of the experiences that she's interested in is community-based tourism. Early on in this process, she will likely have some broad, open-ended questions, something like what is community-based tourism? And there's a likelihood that she will go to Google and ask that in the planning process. Note that at this point, she's not looking for a tour company or tour package yet. Further down this process, it could be weeks or even months, when she's ready to actually book a trip, that query will become way more specific. Something like community-based tourism travel packages in East Africa 2025. An advantage of blogging is to create content for this awareness stage, something higher up the purchase funnel. Let's look at how we can use ChatGPT to brainstorm and research some topics. Back in ChatGPT, we've created a prompt using the framework that Guido introduced in video 1. So let's quickly break this down. Firstly, I'm giving the AI a role. I'm asking it to act as a content strategist, and then the task. So identify at least 20 potential problems or concerns my audience might have when planning a community-based tourism tour in Africa. See how we're not asking the AI to draft or write any article yet. We purely at this stage want to understand how our market thinks, and we want to come up with some broad topics that we can create content around. Then I'm saying again to use the attached market persona as a reference. So here I will drag in our context document from video 2 so ChatGPT can understand Story Safari's unique selling proposition, brand voice, and our detailed market persona for Anna. Now this is where we get a bit strategic. Earlier we looked at the AIDA model, so here we are asking specifically to use that and to show us which of these concerns might be relevant in the awareness stage. We want to understand the concerns and questions that Anna might have very early on in this decision-making process. And then finally, we're giving a very clear goal. We're saying that we want to select blog topics to reach travelers through search engines early in the travel planning. Right away, we can see that the AI is capable of processing and understanding all this information and context that we gave it. And it's already giving us a breakdown of potential questions or concerns that our market persona might have. And it's breaking it down into the AIDA stages, starting with the awareness stage as we asked. Now you can imagine how a process like this would probably take a small marketing team quite a bit of effort and time. We have enough ideas here to likely create enough content for a couple of weeks or even months for Story Safari, depending on how often they will blog. But for this case, we want to select one topic and elaborate on that. And the one that stands out for me is point 4, where we talk about local guide expertise. We know that this is an advantage and a unique selling proposition of Story Safari. So we want to now turn this problem statement into an actual content idea for the company. So I'm simply going to ask ChatGPT, please come up with blog topic ideas for point 4. As a result, when running this prompt, we now can see a list of a fairly good potential blog topic ideas that ChatGPT generated. And this shows us how the AI is capable of switching between context. Previously, we asked it to almost be analytical and strategic, to think about problems related to our market persona. And now we're asking it to be more creative and to come up with ideas. This step of the process, it's really important to consider the additional information or expertise or factual context that you can feed into ChatGPT to further develop or draft an article. Looking at this list, there's a point that stands out to me, and that's number 2. It's called Meet Our Experts. And here clearly the suggestion is that Story Safari can write about their guides and their people, almost making it a personal behind the scenes sort of story. Or this could even be a blog series if they want to write about different guides. Now let's say in their case, they have a profile on one of their guides focusing specifically on community-based tourism. Her name is AIDA. And we have a combination of factual information like a background and education and certificates, but also maybe some advice, travel tips, or even customer testimonials. To speed things up, we've added all this information about AIDA as a guide in a simple document with clear headings. So here you can see we're breaking down the background. We're also talking specifically about community-based tourism expertise. Then we have a short interview where we're asking her advice. And then finally, we have a testimonial from a client. Now that we have enough context, I'm going to add a new prompt to my conversation with ChatGPT, asking it to draft an article about our profile we have on AIDA. So let's quickly break this down. Firstly, we're saying thank you, and then I'm saying please see attached a short profile and interview of one of our guides, AIDA. So let me quickly pull this into the conversation for us. Here we go. So I saved that profile on AIDA simply as a PDF document that I'm now added to this conversation. And then I'm saying use this to with our brand voice in the context document. So I'm referencing the document that I added earlier on in this conversation to draft a Meet Our Experts article for Story Safari's blog. So I'm essentially building here on one of the recommendations that ChatGPT gave me. I'm adding additional factual content that I know I'm making this relevant to my business. I'm going to have more confidence in the information that ChatGPT will draft, and I'm giving it a very clear instruction. As I run this prompt, we can instantly see how the AI is capable now of taking something that was quite short, almost a bullet summary of AIDA as a person or as a guide, and it's turning it into something that resembles more of a structured article. What I like about this is the fact that ChatGPT suggested creative headings for these sections. So that's something, again, that's often quite challenging for businesses that aren't necessarily content writers themselves. So something like writing AIDA's journey, a decade of excellence, and then highlighting a specialist in community-based tourism. Those are the elements that will likely make this article more interesting and more useful and even more search engine friendly. So here we have a first version of a draft article that likely would have taken a marketing team or content writer much longer to produce. But this doesn't mean that it's complete or that we should jump to publish this on Story Safari's website yet. I would encourage us to think about this as a starting point or as a foundation. It's really important that we still look at this with a human eye and to scrutinize it, to think whether there's something we can improve. Maybe something that worries us or that stands out as being inaccurate, or maybe a format that we feel could work better. In this case, I do feel that this is quite thorough, but it feels a bit long. And I'm not sure whether this section on favorite destinations really makes sense. So I'm simply going to ask ChatGPT to revise this. And I say, it feels a bit long. Can you shorten it, removing the top destinations? And here you can see it almost feels like a creative review, the same way that you would work with a copywriter or a content creator, where you can offer your feedback and preferences. And ChatGPT is now rewriting this and of course excluding that. So here we have a more concise and a shorter article to work with. As a final step before publishing this on Story Safari's website, I want to see whether it's possible to use AI to help this article rank in search engines. Now, SEO is quite a nuanced and a technical topic and industry by itself, and we can probably create a whole video series around that. But it's going to be a good example to see again how AI is capable of jumping that context and fill different roles within your business. I created a very simple prompt for this. Firstly, we're changing the role. So we're asking ChatGPT to act as an SEO specialist. And then I'm asking it to create one component of optimizing this page. Create meta tags to help search engines find and understand our article. And then the format, write a title and description that accurately describe our article. I'm also asking it to use SEO best practices. And then lastly, the goal. Our aim is to boost our article's visibility in search engines and attract more readers. Quite simple. And here you can see how ChatGPT is capable of doing that. Not only is it breaking down a meta title and a meta description for this page based on best practices, things like character limits or keyword research, it's even formatting this in code format. So we're not going to use it in this case, but if you had to share this with, let's say, your web developer, or you had to pass this on to your webmaster, it even gives you the code structure. So it's fascinating to see how it's taking that initiative to not ask you that question necessarily, but always be able to make assumptions based on the formats that will be most useful to your business. In this case, we're simply going to copy this meta title and the meta description, and we're going to optimize the page when we add it to Story Safari's website. And here we can see the completed published article. We even found some images of AIDA in the company's photo library to personalize it a bit, and we optimized this article using the meta title and description that we generated with ChatGPT. While I think this is a pretty good article, especially considering the amount of time and effort that went into creating it, I do have one criticism, and that is that we can probably link this article a little bit more prominently to products or itineraries on Story Safari's website. If we're going to use this as promotional content in the awareness stage, we want to do what we can to keep these readers on Story Safari's website as long as possible and hopefully introduce them to some of the tour itineraries. I'm going to navigate to the page that Guido created in video 3, and I'm going to copy this link to the community-based tourism itinerary. Then back in ChatGPT, I created a simple prompt saying we need a stronger call to action for the article, linking to one of our community-based tourism products, and then I pasted the link to Guido's page. Here I also set some clear parameters. I do not want ChatGPT to rewrite the entire article. I just want a short call to action, some text that I can use to improve this. So I'm saying do not rewrite the article. Please just share a short CTA. And as a result, this is what ChatGPT suggested. A pretty strong call to action. It starts with the question, ready to experience Africa like never before. And then it's personalizing this, knowing that this article is about our guide, AIDA. It's saying join AIDA on an exclusive 3-day African cultural immersive tour. And it's giving a bit of a value proposition and then a link to that tour saying book your adventure now. And see the difference it already makes to this article when we bring this call to action over and we add it using a clear element at the bottom of the page like we have here. Not only are we encouraging visitors to become loyal readers of Story Safari's blog, we're also giving them the option to actually look at tour products if they are interested. Even if they are not ready to book this tour, it still gives Story Safari the opportunity to keep this person on the website for longer and learn more about the business and the brand. Let's quickly summarize everything that we've learned in this video. First, we use AI almost as a research assistant. We use CBI's marketing information and we ask ChatGPT whether it's worth it for Story Safari to start a blog in the first place. Here we learned that having a blog would have significant SEO value for Story Safari, but we also need to be aware of the consistency and how often we post. From there, we jumped into planning mode. We uploaded our context document from video 2 and we asked ChatGPT to come up with potential problems or concerns that our market persona and would likely have in the early stage of a booking research journey. We then use ChatGPT to turn these problems into blog content ideas, and from the list, we identify one that would work well for Story Safari. Meet our experts. We fed ChatGPT with more information. We used one of the guide profiles that Story Safari had on AIDA. It had practical information about a background, the certifications, but also some recommendations and even a testimonial. We then used that to prompt ChatGPT to create the first draft. We added a profile on one of Story Safari's guides called AIDA. It had some background information, practical information about a certification, and then also some recommendations and even a testimonial. We then used that to prompt ChatGPT to create a first draft for the article. We felt this first draft was a bit long, so we asked ChatGPT to shorten it. A good example of how you can ask questions and follow up with AI to get the result that you want. As a final step, we changed the context and role and asked ChatGPT to act as a SEO specialist to come up with meta tags for this article. And finally, after publishing the article on Story Safari's website, we felt the only missing piece was a stronger call to action, linking the reader from the article to Guido's itinerary that he created in video 3. And we asked ChatGPT to generate this for us. Thank you for learning with us today. Be sure to watch the next video in the series where Guido will show us how we can use AI to generate social media content ideas and even create posts using ChatGPT.